With his most recent loss, Chris Weidman's UFC career is over.
We had a couple losses for some veterans, Clay Guida, Chris Weidman, Anthony Smith. What do you do with those three?
They all retire tonight.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you won't offer them any more fights, or you'll just kind of...
They should all retire tonight.
When Weidman pulled off one of the biggest upsets in UFC history by snapping Anderson Silva's GOAT-level winning streak, he was tipped to reign for a long time, but somewhere along the lines, he lost the belt and eventually the plot. So how did it happen? Let's look back at his losses to find the answer. After an impressive 8-2 record in NCAA, Weidman transitioned to MMA in 2009, when he kicked things off with a couple of first-round finishes. In only his third professional bout, Weidman fought for the Ring of Combat middleweight title against Uriah Hall, and stopped his foe in a little over 3 minutes.
Uriah's tough, he's taking all of this. And that's it, this fight is...
Hall would eventually avenge his loss in the scariest of ways possible years later, but we'll get to that in a bit. After beating Hall in their first meeting, Weidman defended his newly won belt once, before the UFC came calling. The All-American made a blistering start to his UFC career, securing 5 wins to bag a shot at the middleweight title against the invincible Anderson Silva, who hadn't lost in 16 fights. Given Silva's legendary status, Weidman entered UFC 162 in June 2013 as a significant underdog. But the American was fully prepared to defy expectations.
Obviously, I'm fighting the greatest of all time. I expected people to think I'm going to lose the fight, but that gets me excited to prove them wrong, you know? This is a matchup I wanted for a long time, and now I finally have it, and I got to go out there and do my thing.
Weidman shocked the world by knocking Silva out in the second round, capitalizing on the Brazilian's over-the-top showboating. It was one of the biggest upsets in UFC history.
I'm freaking hungry, man. I gotta get better. I feel like I still didn't really look at my best. So I'm just really excited to go back out there and freaking keep holding on this belt as long as I possibly can.
Weidman retained the belt in his first defense when Silva suffered a horrific shin break.
And the most important thing that we focused on for this fight camp was stopping his leg kicks. Ray Longo, he's actually broke a guy's leg in training using what he calls a destruction, which is knee on shin. So when he goes to kick, you put your knee on his shin.
You know, this would be a tough thing to overcome and to come back from at his age. He literally left here and was going straight into surgery. Doc Saunders, who was here tonight watching the fights, was following them until he's going to do the surgery.
With Silva behind him, Weidman set his sights on 2 more Brazilians, Lyoto Machida and Vitor Belfort, defeating both convincingly to extend his dominant streak against Brazilians. With 3 title defenses under his belt, Weidman eyed his next title fight at UFC 194, which was headlined by Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo.
I'm not missing the Madison Square Garden fight, that's for sure. So that's all I really care about. Asking about Jacare or Rockhold, honestly, it doesn't matter. I want to fight either one of them, but at Madison Square Garden, as long as I'm in that venue, I'm a happy man. That's a dream.
Weidman got his wish, but he'd later wish he hadn't. At UFC 194, he faced former Strikeforce middleweight champ Luke Rockhold, who pulled him into a storm of trash talk leading up to their clash.
Chris is a control freak. When he doesn't have control, he tenses up and it forces him into a different fight. I'm going to stay composed, I'm going to stay relaxed, I'm going to make the adjustments, and I'm going to make him pay. I feel I've separated myself technically, mentally, physically, and these guys have a lot of catch-up work to do.
He'll pay for his words soon.
Just like their verbal sparring outside the cage, Rockhold had the upper hand inside the octagon, dominating Weidman and earning a TKO victory in the 4th round. The two were set to rematch 5 months later at UFC 199, but Weidman withdrew due to injury, and Michael Bisping stunned the world on short notice by knocking out Rockhold to claim the belt. But that's a tale for another day. If you want to watch that and more, subscribe to our channel and turn on those notifications so you stay updated. Weidman made his comeback at UFC 205 in November 2016, stepping into the cage against the terrifying Yoel Romero.
I've been envisioning this for so long, and we're here right now, and we got this fight in about 6 weeks, and I can't wait to come out here and fight in front of all you guys, man. My goal is to win this fight and then go fight for the belt.
Romero wasted no time derailing Weidman's plans, landing a knockout so brutal it left the former champion lying in a pool of blood.
Very tough night. This was not the way I imagined this going, but I still see the beauty in the little things that I got to experience. You know, that walkout, the weigh-ins, every part of it. I felt the love So it was nice.
5 months later, Weidman stepped back into the cage, eager to bounce back against Gegard Mousasi and turn his fortunes around.
Physically, mentally prepared than ever. I just want Saturday to come. I feel like it's the biggest fight of my career. It's a pivotal point where I'm coming off 2 losses, and it's an opportunity for me to show everybody that those fights don't dictate my potential, and that I'm going to let everybody know that I'm back.
Mousasi spoiled Weidman's comeback, stopping him in the 3rd round and handing the former champ his 3rd career loss.
I would love a rematch, yes. I would love to get 3 rounds in. I feel like I was on my way to winning that fight.
Although Weidman bounced back with a win over Kelvin Gastelum, he was quickly brought back down to earth with a loss to Jacare Souza. Heading into the fight, Weidman was confident due to his recent win and his belief that Jacare's cardio wouldn't hold up.
I think his gas tank is a little questionable. I think he does fade. He has a lot of muscle and more explosive. So any activity, me taking him down, being on top, him skirmishing for submissions, me going for submissions, is all a win-win for me.
Weidman's prediction backfired as Souza showed no signs of slowing down on fight night. Instead, the fight turned into a brutal war, with Jacare securing the win by knocking Weidman out cold in the 3rd round. After suffering his 4th loss in 5 middleweight bouts, Weidman announced he would move up to light heavyweight, eyeing a potential fight with John Jones.
So I'm long, and I have power in my hands, especially I think at 205, that might be, a benefit for me. I think I'll even hit harder. I always wanted to go up to 205. So the goal, when everything was good, when I was undefeated and the champ of the world, the goal was to defend my belt a few times at 85, go up to 205 and beat John Jones. That was always the goal, and then things changed. You got to reevaluate your goals, and now I'm going up to 205.
If middleweight was tough, light heavyweight proved to be even worse for Weidman as he faced rising star Dominic Reyes, who knocked him out in less than 2 minutes. After a rough debut at light heavyweight, Weidman quickly returned to middleweight and bounced back with a win over Omari Akhmedov. He then faced Uriah Hall, a former opponent he had already beaten, so he was confident history would repeat itself.
I'm excited about it. I think it's a cool story that we fought so long ago on a local show and still are at the top in the UFC, the top promotion in the world, and we get to have a rematch. So I think it's cool. I know he's super motivated about it, to have a second chance at me, being that I was the first person to ever beat him. And then, obviously to finish him, it's a scar that's probably on him. So his excitement excites the crap out of me because I'm not just going to lay down for him. I am very, very prepared.
Little did he know he was about to experience a life-changing moment. Just 17 seconds into the fight, Weidman threw a low kick that collided with Hall's boulder of a knee. The next thing we know, the former champ was on the canvas with his leg broken in half. Weidman was stretchered out of the octagon and rushed to the hospital for surgery. The next day, he revealed that doctors told him he'd need crutches for 8 weeks and would require 6 to 12 months of recovery before returning to MMA training. By mid-June 2021, however, Weidman was already back to light training just 7 weeks after the injury. Unfortunately, he had to undergo a second surgery due to complications with the fracture healing. Despite the horrific injury, Weidman refused to back down and retire, and after more than 2 years away, he made his comeback against Brad Tavares at UFC 292 on August 19, 2023, when he lost by a decision. With the All-American Express back on track, Weidman was eager to get back into the cage as soon as possible. The UFC gave him another chance to redeem himself against Eric Anders at UFC 309, but Anders had to withdraw due to injury. Weidman wasn't happy about it.
I was crushed. I teared up a little bit, a little cry. I got my whole family there, and they spent thousands of dollars, to get down to New York, and tons of friends and family that flew in, and they're not going to watch, the main event. They're not going for anything other than to support me. And so it's just like, I just felt so awful for all of them. I'm not getting my full purse. I'll put that out there.
Yeah.
Which, it's tough. You show up, and then I get an opportunity to fight here just a couple weeks later. So I'll be fine. I get my full pay then. And I don't know what happens if Anders doesn't show up this time.
The fight between Weidman and Anders was rescheduled for UFC 310, where Anders not only showed up but TKO'd Weidman in the second round to hand him his 8th loss. At 40, Weidman's future in the UFC is uncertain, especially with his recent struggles. It's unlikely he'll ever reach the top again, but Dana White could still give him a few fun matchups before he rides off into the sunset. Curious to watch the story of another fighter who's on the brink of exiting the UFC? Check out my breakdown of who's gotten better of Kron Gracie since stepping into MMA.